Right, you'd want to know early on in the process.
Can you all hear?
That's a good point.
Yep.
Yes, Elaine, yes.
All right.
Yep.
Or nothing about it.
All right, sorry to keep you waiting. We were just chit chatting while we were trying to get to a quorum here. So let's see, 7:17, I will call the meeting to order. And why don't we take things out of order here, because we have Larry Loeffler, the chair of the Historic Commission, Local Historic District Planning Committee or something like that. And Brian O'Halloran, a member of the committee as well. And that is number 4 on our agenda. It is the Local Historic District Study Committee. Okay, I get it right now. So they are working on bringing an article to the Springtown meeting. You may recall from a year or two ago, they came to us, or at least Larry did.
Not last spring, the spring
Yeah,
before.
to talk about what they were working on. So they're here to give us an update. And just so you know, this is probably our last meeting of this committee as it's constituted. We're recommending to town meeting that a successor committee be appointed, and hopefully we will be able to come to that committee and get their input too. So keep your eyes are on the lookout for that, or I can let you know how that goes. Okay, so go ahead.
I'm not gonna go over all the history of why we got here. It was referred back 2 springs ago. Because of the language in the bylaw. And then we have commercial owners in the area concerned. So we have the bylaw available, and we're going to give it to every chairman, and we can give it to every committee member. What we're hoping is that we can get together and all commit to the language and all the rules before we get to spring. So in spring, we're kind of a slam dunk, which we weren't last time. And right now, the doc stands with some corrections. The corrections that were put in from the last time we were in front of the committee. But it's different committees, things have changed in the town. This committee is probably going to change, so it's a moving target.
Do you plan to have a public meeting?
We're gonna have 2, we only have to have 1.
Okay,
And we're gonna have 2, last time we had 3. I don't care about public meetings, I'm happy to have them. I would rather have everybody agree,
and do you know when
even
those
though
are
that's
going?
impossible.
Do you know when those are
No.
going to be?
Do I know when they'll be? As soon as I get some buy-in from some of the other committees, like I need to go in front of the water committee. And then that's really it. You guys, the planning committee and the warrant committee are 3. Unless you think I should be in front of other people. The historical committee, we are and have been.
I wonder if you should go to the Chamber of Commerce, even though they, a lot of them, membership is focused in East Milton.
Right.
There could be some from, well, at least you could ask the chairman of the chamber if he feels as if there's enough representation from Milton Village to go there.
The other idea I had was, as we get closer, I forget how many town meeting members there are. But the town has all of their email addresses, and to send a series of emails to them as we get closer to spring.
We have a little bit of a problem there, is that the town clerk will not release those emails to you to send information to them.
No, they would go to them. And
No, I mean, what I'm saying is, I've been having this ongoing discussion with Nick Milano and the town about having access, either email/phone numbers of town meeting members in Milton. We don't do that. We're one of 6 communities that don't provide that type of information. And we hear that Nick was trying to do it on a volunteer basis. I think the number is 270 town meeting members, of which only 90 responded saying they would be willing to have their personal information. Now, having said that, what the town does have and we use it for you and the planning board or for the select board, it's a town of Milton email. So if I send one to Larry Waller, it could be town of Milton, miltonmasco.org right now. We don't have that now. So if you talk to Sue Galvin, she'll say, I have that information, but I cannot release it.
Yeah.
So which is part of your problem.
If we gave Sue something, would she send it out on?
Probably-
Yeah,
probably not.
she sends things to
No,
town meeting
that's
members
one of the
on your
real-
behalf.
You know, if you remember going back to the MBTA situation where we had an expensive override basically of the town meeting. The only other community that had the same situation at the time was the town of Needham. There's a coincidence that both don't have emails or contact information. The question becomes from a governance standpoint, if there's going to be a representative town meeting, and you don't have to have a representative town meeting like we have, we chose to do that. Who are they representing if they don't, as I said to Milano, I said, I don't know what they think, but more importantly, they don't know what I think. Right? So you really get yourself in an interesting conundrum that I'm glad you're bringing it up because it would make perfect sense to be able to access them with something like this, but you can't.
So one thing I would say is you can reach out to the moderator who sets up a town meeting section on the website where documents get posted.
Yeah.
I don't know how far in advance of a town meeting that gets set up, but that is where town meeting members are directed to go. To
Probably
look at
the best you can do right now.
Yeah,
We can find that out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
and I see that Regina is trying to flash herself in my attention here.
Well,
Regina.
let's be clear, I
Wait,
wasn't trying
we
to
don't
flash.
hear you. Wait, hold on, I gotta turn my volume up. Hold on, sorry. How am I doing that here though? Oh, maybe here. Hold on one sec.
Testing.
There we go.
Okay, so let's be clear, I wasn't flashing anybody, just FYI. I did want to
Right.
mention that although Sue Galvin can't give out the email addresses of town meeting members, what she does do is on behalf, especially of committees, she will send an email to the town meeting members. So she's done this in the past for various other groups.
Who is the she you're talking to?
Sorry,
Town clerk.
the
I would-
town
Yes,
clerk.
She had told me that before.
She will do that on your behalf.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
all
and
right,
so
well,
it'll be a
Yeah,
BCC,
and that's
so
what I tried to say, but I don't
No,
know.
no, okay.
I'm not that tuned in.
Go ahead, Regina.
yeah, so she will do that on your behalf, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Regina. So one thing I would say is when you have those public meetings, if you can make sure that there's not that many property owners in Milton Village. You make sure that you reach out to all
Yeah.
of them.
Right.
Even like if it's 88 Wharf where there's a lot of residents, you could reach out to they have an association, right, like condo association, probably
Yeah, sure.
residents that you could reach out to. And even if you had to go knock on some doors for a few places.
Fortunately, there's only really three big players on the commercial side there, and we know who they are.
Right.
So then there are other commercial things. I don't know if they're renting or what's going on with that. But JD and the Hajars are key players.
Right, there's a couple of single family,
Mhm.
several maybe, single families and some two families.
Right.
And they may have concerns about what it means for them if they need to make repairs on their homes. So it's worth reaching out to them as well.
Yeah, and we did during our process, and we will
Do it
again
again,
now.
right.
We're just gonna do it more concentrated and with more intention this time. We were just kind of, hey, this is great, you know.
Yeah, I think the important thing is they're gonna, property owners are, the way I think is, how will it affect me?
Yeah.
Or how will it affect
Always.
the business or my
Always.
property?
Always.
Yeah.
And having pretty clear answers about that, I think is gonna be important. Because you know, if I think about town meeting, you know, the question that I, as a town meeting member, that I would have is, you know, what do the property owners think
Mhm.
about
Right,
this, right?
exactly.
So it's just like with any thing that the planning board does, you know, the property owners want to be heard, and so that's gonna be important for you, you know, for your work. And then I think answering, you know, these high level questions, since this committee has this power, and if that power has to be there, then who gets appointed and what qualifications they have and how they make their decisions, you know, has to be something that people will have confidence in.
Who gets chosen and how they get oh, there's.
Regina,
again.
you, yes,
Yeah, I would also add, it wouldn't hurt to put the neighborhood associations into your repertoire of folks that you email. And I know that the Town of Milton website has a list of them. Most of them are still active in some way, shape, or form, whether it's just as an email list or what. But the names of the different neighborhood associations are up there, like Greater Pagoda,
Right.
Circle, and others. And I think people would really be interested in hearing before town meeting, you know, a mini explainer of what this thing is and why it's important and how it's going to impact folks. So, you know, and as you prepare your whatever presentation you're going to give, it wouldn't hurt to have either that Q&A lined up to be able to email to people, or a quick, you know, link to a video or something of somebody explaining, you know, what this is all about. So.
Sure. We are required by the state to do one meeting. Last time we did 3. We did a survey, we did a bunch of stuff. So I'm not offended by people saying we should talk to people. We are. And what we're talking about right now is being more forthright about it and including more of the people. But with 3 meetings with lots of discussion before it, and the only people that showed up were JD and Mr. Hajar and Judy from the Water Committee.
so one thing I would say about that is, people know that there are historic districts now. They don't impact them really.
Yeah.
But this is different, you know, and it could impact them, so, you know, sometimes it's definitely my experience, it's hard to get people to meetings when their attention is taken to so many places. But
They do need
you
the
know,
information.
yeah, you know, and you know, somehow in the how it gets advertised, you know, an important decision needs to be made, you know, did you know that there's no protection for these historic buildings in our most historic district? You know, are you interested in seeing more levels of protection? Come learn more about what could happen. I mean, that kind of how you phrase what you want people to get their attention
Yeah, right.
is important.
Right.
Because if you just say, we're going to have a meeting to talk about the local historic district opportunity.
Right, it doesn't mean anything, you know, yeah. You gotta phrase it in a way that it's impactful to them, you know, that they
That it,
see the potential impact, you know,
Right.
or.
because oftentimes what happens is people say, well, how did that happen? How did that get approved? Or how did that
Yeah.
get taken down? Or how did that tree go away? And it's,
Yeah,
you know, somebody may have been trying to get their attention for years.
it's how it went away, that tree.
Right. Elaine, did you have anything that you would like to offer here?
Maybe, but is there a button on that owl? I feel like I'm getting motion sickness from the.
Oh, I see
It's
now what you're
so
saying.
bad and it's so distracting.
What are we saying?
It's not actually an owl, it's like attached to the wall.
Yeah,
You mean to make it fixed?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how to make it fixed, I can try.
I think it's,
Do you know how to, anyone?
I don't know, but
Just press button.
It's trying
Pressing
to focus
button.
on movement, so if everyone stands still, we'll be okay.
Oh, it's, yeah,
It's
it's motion
focused,
detector.
yeah, all right.
And because I started to talk, it went to me, see, that's what it's doing.
It's okay. No, I do feel for you. It's helpful to understand how much public outreach that you've tried to engage in, and I think that it sounds like you've done a lot of it. I think it's my experience in the 8 years I've been in Milton is that it's so hard to get information, and I don't have a solution. So, but no, just wanted to say that it's wonderful that you're trying to do that, and it sounds like at least getting it out to town meeting members would be helpful, and maybe an easy route through Susan.
I
See,
what you
now
mean.
you're noticing.
I see what you mean.
You're
It's still, and it's not helping any, is it?
It's just randomly doing it.
It's like picking up on you breathing or something. I
Oh, my God.
don't
Now you're gonna make us so self-aware.
Sorry.
All right, did you have any further comments?
No.
Okay.
That's
Okay, we'll
good
see you,
feedback.
okay?
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
great
come
feedback.
in.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Good evening.
good luck, and I'll try and get you more specific feedback too.
And yeah, we're just at the beginning now.
Right.
We have
Other
spread.
stuff. Thanks,
Thank you, Bob.
evening, okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna come back to the approval of the minutes. We had August 7th, August 25th, and September 10th. Anybody have any? Two of them were pretty short and sweet. But they're just recording. Okay, so then I will take a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second it.
Wait, who made the motion? Dick?
I'll make
Did you
it.
make it?
Yeah.
All right, what did we start at? Did I say 7:15? Was it
Yeah,
late?
so-
7:17.
7:15, okay, so Dick. And then.
Roll call.
You seconded it, right?
Mhm.
And all those in favor, Regina,
Aye.
Elaine,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
and myself, yes, so that's the minutes. All right, and then, I think, let's see, we'll see if Deborah is going to join us. The grad students are in class until just after 8:30. If we're still going, they'll see if they can jump on. And if not, I can give you a little update because I joined that sort of advisory group that we talked about, and we had a meeting last week. So we'll table that for the moment and we'll come back to it. So that I'm gonna go to 6 next, the report. Has everybody had a chance to read where we are with that? Dick, I incorporated.
No, I just sent in, but I have not seen the report, so. I
So
don't-
have you not been able to follow the link? When I send the link, if you click on the link,
I guess not, no.
Okay.
No, I'll assume that everything is
alright, so.
as we discussed.
Yeah, I took a few references to specific people out because it was inconsistent with everything else.
Sure.
But the gist, the gist of the content was there, yeah. It both in the economic development and transportation. Okay?
Sure.
And Regina's been working, and we can call that up. I'm gonna call it up. We'll do a share just so we can look at it because we've run into our time clock here. Of needing to complete this because I discussed this at the planning board last week as we spoke about. I will be going to the select board on the 21st. And then I need to submit the presentation to the moderator on Friday for town meeting on Monday, the 27th. So what I wanted to do is be able to distribute the report to the select board and planning board in advance of town meeting. So
Right.
that leaves us next week. But I thought we really had a point where we can take a vote on it. And let me just do the share. Sharing is not on, okay, I have to do sharing. I don't wanna do too much sharing, right? I don't know how to do it otherwise because I'm gonna try this. I hope this doesn't become a problem for us.
You should be able to say one person at a time, share.
No, but it doesn't let me here.
Not on there?
No.
Okay. Are you're the
Oh, wait,
host?
one person at a time, yes, but then it's not letting me do it. Now it is. Regina, thank you. Okay, got it. One person at a time. Just Dick, I'm gonna move this over here, so. What is this? A little larger. All right, so I asked Regina over the weekend, since her section had some more questions and follow-up, if she could review it with me. So since that's not a forum, we could do that. And so I'm just gonna, the beginning part, actually, let me go back. Last meeting, we talked about switching the order a little bit and moving the top 20 recommendations progress ahead of what the committee led on, and so I did that. So that's reflected, and we'll scroll down to it. Excuse me, so then I needed something to kind of fill in that. All right, to title that piece in between, so I called it the committee's work, and I'll show you where that is. And then here I added resources instead of having it be in the body. Where there's a link to a document in the body, I just put it at the end. So that's a little bit of a change there, so I'll show you that. So nothing, we've already talked about how all of that is just background, all of this first couple of pages. And then this just, is the background of the committee, how this got set up and why. And then it goes right from there to the progress on the top 20. And no change in number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Here, this is just an update based on now that we know that local historic district's going to be proposed for next spring.
Sure, could you go back? I'm just looking at the parking issues.
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw that. What do we know on that? Plans have been prepared.
Maybe we should refer to later sections.
The parking is, as you know, in East Milton Square in particular, and it's starting to become a big issue in Central Avenue, and I imagine when everything gets put together on Milton Village, because the parking is going to be
I'm gonna suggest we do this.
a major issue in this town as it ties into the whole traffic situation. So, as I said to you in the.
I think it's layered.
Well, yeah, it's really, there's nothing really been done relative to come up with a parking plan. I mean, it's, as I said to you, that the committee that was proposed, nothing ever happened to it. And one of the issues they were going to deal with was just general parking for employees, but also Uber deliveries, et cetera. They're gonna have to be addressed at some point. And it's gonna be a much bigger issue when 440 Granite Avenue and Bassett Street sort of come together, so.
So
Do we know?
so I think, Dick, what I would like to do here is refer to the transportation section.
Yeah, you can. I'm just saying that's
Okay.
one of those issues that I'm hearing pretty much on a regular basis, saying that the traffic issue that we've talked about, and we had a plan or some recommendations. We really don't have too much on the parking situation, which is going to impact economic development, quality of life.
Maybe what we need to say is something here, priority. Um. What do you think of that?
I think it's good. I think one of the issues that's sort of is going through this whole report, as I understand it, is there's really a lack of accountability as to who has responsibility for doing certain things in the town. For example, who deals with parking? Is it the police? Is it the DPW? Is it the planning department? Is it who has that? Is it a traffic commission? I mean, if it's not a problem, then we just can move on. But if people perceive it's a problem, it's not gonna solve itself. And I think that's part of what was coming out of the master plan, as I remember some of our meetings, public meetings, the people were bringing that up as an issue.
Doesn't it say the words right there?
Was that?
Yeah, the boards are there, but, I'm wondering if. Like beyond that, like who should they designate? Is there some other way? Do you think it's already covered? Elaine?
Unless we feel it's missing a board, I don't know how much more granular you need to get,
Okay,
unless
So-
others disagree.
so what do we think? We list who's responsible. The planning part is planning board, the sort of who is really responsible in terms of any implementation is the select board. And the chamber's input should be sought, right?
Yep.
So,
But it's also the police department, right?
yeah, that's true because of the enforcement.
But don't you start with you need a plan to deal with it?
Well,
Before
that's
you-
why I kind of went from planning to select board.
So it would be the planning board's responsibility to come up with a plan for parking in our business districts. Or in general,
Don't you think?
I don't know, I'm asking, but right now, it seems to be one of those
It could be planning department.
hot potatoes that no one really wants to.
I actually think the
to deal
planning
with.
department has been involved in this in the past, so I would put them in.
So they would have primary responsibility to come up with some sort of a plan for parking.
Yeah.
And then it would go to,
Implementation would have to go to the select board and the
so
town.
the select board, and the enforcement would logically be the police department, I would guess. Even though what is the traffic enforcement officer?
Under the police department.
He's under the police department, so it would be the police department. Right, so. Let's put this back, the planning board now has, not the planning board, the planning department would have to come up with. A parking plan. And somehow you're gonna have to also interject. The traffic commission, because they seem to get involved with parking issues.
And I feel like the DPW is another one that we don't have on here that's quite involved now.
Right. But I mean, as I said, there's a lot of moving pieces here and no one seems to want to assume or be given the responsibility to do it.
Right, there's
So
not,
now,
yeah,
you
right.
know,
Well,
15 years later, and we're talking about the same issue.
I think there's a difference between responsibility and accountability. And for me, DPW might be responsible for some of the work, or Council on Aging might be responsible for some of the work, but there's got to be some structural body like a board or elected official who ultimately is the one that the buck stops at when it comes to X, Y, or Z. Does that make sense? And that might be the police commissioner, that might be the select board, like whatever it is.
Well, someone, yeah, I don't.
That's different, but
personally, I don't care
that's
who it is, as long as
no, no,
someone
no, no. But
has
there's
this
a
responsibility.
but there's a difference between accountability and
I know
responsibility,
what the
right?
differences are, but that's, if someone has to take the responsibility of putting together the plan, and then you can deal with the accountability as to who has to implement the plan, right?
What about the traffic commission?
That's, right now, you would have to go to them, they are reactive as opposed to being proactive.
Well, could that change?
That's one of the
Sure.
recommendations, that was in the traffic commission report, but if you actually, some of the parking time slot changes were made by the DPW on their own, I believe. Maybe, I don't know who they consulted with,
I don't know either.
so.
Are you talking about
that's
the
one that-
15? Are you talking about the change of the 15 to the 15-minute ones?
Yes, and then.
That was
there were
that
some-
was that was a reach out from the select board.
Okay, so. I don't know, I mean, we could put select board and leave it there and take everybody else out of here.
I think that's,
And then-
that would be fair.
Because then everything else can fall under them.
And then they would give it to the town manager, right?
Mhm.
The town manager would then give it to the planning department to come up with a plan as a directive. And then he would figure out then, I guess, who would have the accountability to implement the plan and what they're supposed to do.
I think that's right.
So let's
Otherwise,
keep
you
it
have so
simple,
many,
just saying that it's the select board's they would have the responsibility of dealing with this issue. And it's not getting dealt with.
yeah, that also seems like there's a lot of, this is just my perception, which could be completely inaccurate, but from reality, I don't know, but it just seems like there's a lot of like ad hoc changes, and I wonder if there's like coordination.
This is the challenge, I think, Elaine, has happened not just with parking, but with traffic. That was like the whole. Idea about funding the traffic model was that the traffic commission was just very reactionary and not, sort of. Strategic and it's not really changed on the parking or the, I mean, even though, I don't know if these departments talk to one another, there's been so much turnover, whether they even know that these reports exist. But, planning board and MPIC have funded parking studies and traffic analyses and loading zone analyses and, when Tim Zerwinski left, he probably left them, in files and folders and notebooks and everything, but somebody needs to get in there and pick them up and maybe even Bill Clark, but was before that, but this is one of my overarching concerns is that we don't have continuity across boards and
Right.
staff in terms of following up on very good work and recommendations, and we kind of just regurgitate this stuff and talk about it and don't make progress on it.
Well, and it also is gonna impact. The interest of citizens to participate in these committees, if they think that it's a waste of time, right? And it also it gives a bad look to the town as to it's not me, it's someone else. I mean, I really don't care who does it as long as it gets done. And I think we probably all agree with that. I mean, it makes no difference to me who's responsible as long as there's some someone that has a responsibility and accountability of doing it.
All right, so what do we think about
Just by the select
what
board.
this is now? How this is phrased now? Can you read it, Dick?
So, yeah. I think this is gonna be a good issue for the next. You know, the next committee to deal with, as we give them enough issues saying, here, we've identified these issues, we're getting a hard time. Putting together a coordinated and a comprehensive approach to some of these because they run across varied and. Sometimes silos within town government. We're not, you know, we're not the city of Boston. This is a situation where you sit people down saying, you have a problem. This is what we're gonna do. You do the plan, you do this, you do that. Here's your input, and then implement it. But that is not getting done because someone decides it's not a problem. If it's not a problem, then we just move on.
All right, we can see whether we think it's adequately covered in those other sections.
Yeah,
Because we
yeah,
just
that's
talked
fine.
about the other sections.
I just wanted to
We're
make sure
good
it was
with-
in there because it affects some of the other things we were talking about in terms of economic development and,
Right,
you know.
the idea
sustainability.
on this top 20 was to keep these a little bit short.
Mhm.
And follow up later, but I know there's some places where we have gotten a little bit more detailed, like these early ones are a little bit short. Because the top 20 do reappear
Right,
in others of the sections, you know, the 5 or 7 sections. So like here, just just so you know, I added this about the 75 acres getting put in to conservation when land was taken out of conservation and
Right.
parks at Gile Road. And then added that these last 4 were funded or partially funded by CPC grants. People can see where those funds are going.
mhm,
Regina and I spoke about the this answer and added a little bit more information based on what we were able to get from both the plan and Regina's conversations. Regina, you've got something to plug in here, right, on the opioid?
I did, I couldn't find much, but I was able to find a little bit. I didn't add that though, I apologize.
So you'll add that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can still vote with knowing that that'll be added.
sure.
Yeah, so we just added a little bit more from. I think we had it on the side to add a little bit more, what came out of that community health assessment, so we enforced that a little bit, because that is a lot of progress since. The master plan was done on what they've been doing there. And then I reached out to Christine Stanton, the executive director at the Council on Aging, and she provided me with some additional information to include here. So added that. Okay,
Mhm.
and then. And this is where I gave it this title, the committee's work, and this is a better one, where.
Right.
this was the things that we took initiative on.
Mhm.
So, I don't think anything else was changed within there.
What were you saying about the traffic model?
Yeah, so we say more about that later, Dick.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, so that's what I'm just looking at here now too, because I didn't change anything in this section. I added it later, based on what you sent me.
that's fine.
Yeah, maybe I did this, this, you know, given the traffic challenges, the committee recommends a priority be placed on this. Every time we read it, he said,
I mean, I just think it's just so annoying reading this, it's, you know, you fund something and you find out when I had a recent conversation with the head of the DPW, she said, well, it has to be updated, it hasn't been used, but now it has to be updated, and there's no one really that can use it without hiring someone to do it, so I'm a little sheepish to admit that this happened because it's, you know, we reacted to an ask, we provided funds, and this is where we are, we're still.
yeah, we have, I think this is clear and succinct in terms of what we recommend.
Yeah, I just, you know, when you're making a presentation, I'd be careful about this one. People that would catch my attention,
Yeah.
having not been part of this. And saying, what are you talking about? You gave money and we didn't use it. And now if we want to use it, use the modeling, we have to spend more money. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where this began, when Phil Clark was the planning director, plus, you know, we've had some staffing, and when there were different DPW director. And
Yes.
George- Um. And then it goes into the sections.
Yeah.
Tabor added, I'll get to this piece where Tabor added, oops. Under the recommendations section of this. We talked about when he and Regina and I met, when we didn't have that meeting posted, so we did have that three of us meet. Adding, because it's cultural and historic, adding here a bit more on the culture side.
Sure.
So he added
Yeah.
what you can see here. I'll scroll a little bit.
Are you with Dad for that? Are you with Dad for that? Oh no, you're with Mia's mom, Mia, right?
You're
okay.
muted, Regina.
Regina
Sorry.
need to mute.
I'm
Cheryl, can you go back up a little bit?
Sure. I'm sorry, I split there, but tell me when you're ready to move down.
Should we be more vague or like, I wonder if we should name specific businesses? Like, should we just say like, e.g. dance studios or,
Okay, that's.
I don't know, I just.
This will now say, who? People
Yeah.
say, who, right?
Okay. The lack of space for programs that benefit the residents of Milton should be addressed as Milton plans for the future. I know what all the words mean, but
Sorry.
how do we do that? Is space, a lack of space or land, is that the issue? Or is it we have space and we just don't have plans for that space?
Well, he says here, lack of adequate space.
Yeah, but how do I get that space?
Well, one thing is we don't zone for it.
Technical, I mean, but,
So
yeah,
that means you can't, it's not allowed.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying, so.
Okay, so how do you want to?
Well, I mean, did you wanna put in there, and this is because of. Just what you just said, that we don't zone for it, and that may wanna be addressed. By the planning board in future discussions about zoning. Right? 'Cause I just don't know where you find the space to provide these types of. Space for the programs.
Well, I think it's also about protecting the space that we have for those programs. But I think like if you think about the library, for instance, if we were doing a structure on, or not we, but if the town did a structure for parking, you know, that could be a consideration as you're looking to do things that are on town-owned property, like,
Yeah, so he's got here the central fire station, second floor, the Russell Road building. Community space. So here, I mean, the town, it could be like town leaders. We could put something about be. Proactive in. Planning for. These opportunities or something. Anybody have any suggestion of how to phrase something?
See,
There is a Milton Cultural Council, right?
right,
So. Maybe the planning. Board.
Am I frozen?
You're not frozen here. Can you see what I'm typing, everyone? Do you want to have suggestions
Yeah.
here?
me too.
I can't see it, sorry.
Alright. It is recommended the planning board work with the Milton Cultural Council to evaluate.
Oh, I got it now, sorry.
Evaluate. Yeah.
Cultural. Space needs,
Spatial needs,
space needs,
yeah,
no?
space, like,
And develop. A plan, to address.
hmm,
Does that make sense?
it's fine.
Elaine, can you see our, that's last sentence? Virginia, can you see it now?
you could see it.
Are you guys good with that? Do you have another suggestion?
I just don't know how, it's hard to envision how you would develop a plan to address, that's all, I don't,
Well,
You address
I know-
current and future needs.
right, like I mentioned, I think it's like safeguarding existing community spaces, and like there
And
aren't a lot of
proactive
spaces,
plan.
but like, right, proactive planning for future, facilities dedicated to, arts and cultural activities or something like that. I mean, I think like, one approach that some communities make is that they include requirements in new developments, but I just don't know that that's like something that's feasible in Milton. Especially since we don't have a lot of control over like any of those like larger scale developments really have been done through 40B, and that's like, I don't think the avenue where you could have a requirement to contribute space or resources to support like community programming.
I think, having, doing the space needs analysis, is kind of like a first step. I mean, we don't, at this point, the Milton Players and the NSYNC dance left long enough ago, but my daughter used to go to NSYNC, and I spoke to Terry, the owner. I said, I miss having you in Milton. She said, we couldn't find space in Milton. So we came to Quincy, and Quincy opened. She said, we asked Milton for help. We didn't get anywhere. We asked Quincy, they rolled out the red carpet. So, I mean, this is the issue.
Mhm.
That's a business, but it's also cultural, because they do have, I don't know if they still do, when my daughter participated, they would host their performances at the Milton High School. So they would bring that in, because they don't have performance space on site.
Well, the Milton Women's Club for years was one of those venues for those types of things, as well as the Milton Boozer Club, which we've done away with both. And we put ourselves in these situations where, immediate wants and needs take precedence over future benefits.
We could note this here too.
Extra space storage would have been a perfect dance center.
I'm naming names because I don't know otherwise if we can do this here. You can tell me otherwise, but.
Women's Club.
Did you all see that? I
Mhm.
think it's important to actually note the loss of those spaces.
Mhm. Yeah, I think in this instance, it's appropriate to list the specifics.
Okay.
I mean, historically, those places, as well as Cunningham Park, were the places you would have those types of activities. And I'm not sure what's going on at Cunningham now in the hall, but with the Hoosier Club obviously closing up, but more importantly, the Milton Women's Club, which for years was available to all sorts of
Right.
cultural events, the dance and the plays and things along those lines. Big losses. If, once again, if people thought they were important.
I mean, I tend to think, I grew up in the performing arts with dance, but I tend to think that it appeals to all ages, and to have to travel outside the town, granted, Quincy is not very far and in other nearby areas, but it's a wonderful resource to have in a town.
Well, it's also part of, like in Quincy, the people who feature nice dance studio also. With Dunkin' Donuts, so you end up with additional business activity. which we can benefit from. There's lots of kids that go to the dance studio. All right, well, I think that's a good, those are a couple of good additions.
Mhm.
You know, this, it's really, part of this is like the select board too, because what's gonna happen with that East Milton Fire Station is not really planning board. So we could say it's the town work with the cultural council, but it's nice to pin it on somebody, right, just be, other than the vague town. I guess we could leave it as the planning board for now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's,
Alright. So. Are we good to keep moving?
Yeah.
Regina has done some outreach to the Parks Department and Parks Commissioner. On this, Regina, I think you were gonna focus on more on some other successes and recommendations now here.
Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff from, yeah, I just reached out to one person and to Rob Levash, and he was wonderful in getting back to me. Then he CC'd other people in the Parks Department, and it just kind of snowballed into a whole lot. So what I'm prepared to add is a link to a list of all the current Parks and Rec offerings for 2025, and a little blurb that gives a tiny update on these things straight from the Parks Department. So I don't think there'll be any need for input from this committee, unless it's just grammar type stuff, right? Because it's going to be factual stuff coming right from Parks and Rec. So if you're okay with that, I can even send you the final copy. But I got it yesterday and I have not been able to turn back to it. I'm
Right.
sorry about that.
I think some of the people will start to be hearing from Milton residents, especially those with fairly young children, with the, I guess, the facilities up at, oh, the old Reebok, headquarters. Milton has been using that for soccer and lacrosse for little kids. That has been taken off the table as an option. For some reason, they don't want Milton kids to use those facilities, as well as, I guess there's also the pushback from DCR relative to the fields up at Houghton's Pond. So there's a lot more intensity trying to find playgrounds. Now, maybe this Pebbly Park or whatever may be able to solve some of that, but it's gonna be, I think we're gonna hear this, the town's gonna hear from a lot of young new homeowners relative to the lack of like cultural opportunities, athletic and recreational opportunities in the town.
I think when you see the list of what they have going on, you know, I don't have the longevity that you have of being able to see the change over time, but the list is actually pretty impressive, and so I'm happy to share that with you if you want to.
I think it's probably is. I certainly take your word for it. I'm just saying now that there's 2 or 3 opportunities that Milton residents used to use these fields on a regular basis, and those have been taken off the table, which is going to put a lot more stress and demand on fields. Just recently, I went to watch a little kid's soccer game at Mary C. Lane that is not set up for kids playing soccer, but it was being used for that because there was no other place for these kids to play. So I think the Parks and Recreation Department is going to have to sort of figure out their own, and I think you have it in this reading, have their own master plan as to how are they going to deal with the once again current and projected future demand. Because this could be a real mess. And I think someone said Gal Road is still being I don't think it's in court, but I think it's with the DEP. Does that sound right?
I think there's still some ongoing challenges.
the challenges to that. So we have a lot of demand now in these, you know, these young new residents. And their families are saying, what's wrong with this picture here? Why don't we have enough in this town? Now, remember, we've historically relied on the Cunningham Foundation for an awful lot. But once again, there's no requirement that the Cunningham Foundation has to make all their property available to the town. They do, but they don't have to. Right, so I think this is gonna be another interesting one. I don't think it's anywhere near as important as a lot of the other issues we've been talking about, but this is going to be an issue going forward. And so I just wanted to keep your eye on.
Elaine, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, I agree, but I think that this is gonna be a really big issue going forward. And can I share for 1 second?
Sure. Let me
Just
stop this.
for,
So you should be able to share.
There you go.
I don't know if you've seen this, Regina, so apologies if you have, but it's the CPA project database that's online. You can filter. I don't know why none of ours are categorized as open space, but you can kind of filter by recreation and see a lot of these things. So I don't know if it's worth adding as some of the successes, but just some interesting things that are either in the works or already complete. So that's it.
So you could have a link to this then, Regina. We can add this link.
Yeah, this is,
So if you want to email that link,
Or Elaine, actually, if you can just drop it right in the,
chat.
no, not in the chat,
No,
just
we
put
have
it
no
right.
chat.
I don't see it. Oh, in the
No, there's-
document. Yeah,
In
yeah.
the doc, yeah, just put it
Yeah,
at the
at the
bottom of the
last
document where you
page.
have the other resources,
I
okay?
don't
That's
actually know
awesome.
that it works that way, but let me try and then you
What
can
do you
test
mean?
it. You can test it out. Because
Right. I want to go back to sharing the document while you work on that.
Okay.
a good shot.
right,
Um,
it's fun to. I think it's interesting to look through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
it
it's
is
great.
good. So here's, I mean, I guess you can highlight this, it's the space constraints, maybe, you know. Getting gal across the finish line, I mean, you've got them here, Regina. I guess
Yeah,
whether they need any more elaboration, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Mhm.
you know, Lower Guile Road is a big project. Now, what it's gonna look like, I think is the issue, isn't it? Whether it's gonna be turf or grass. And I think that's what the light is, and we'll see, but it can't just go another season without something, having some sort of resolution. Something is going to happen to that piece of property.
Mhm.
But I think what you said is not the solution, others have said not the solution to townwide space challenge.
You know, there's a lot of, I mean, I think we all can just see in town, there's an awful lot of, you know, young families.
So,
Moving in with children, looking for recreational.
so I think you're gonna like this, what we added. Given the limited amount of municipal land and competing needs. The committee recommends the development of a comprehensive public land use strategy that proactively balances conservation of open space with other. Public services and amenities such as recreation, housing, libraries, schools, fire stations, and other town infrastructure. The development of specific plans such as the open space and recreation plan should be considered in the context of this overall strategy.
Excellent.
So this is where I think it gets at, there are competing needs. And
Yeah.
limited land, and you can't have plans that are looked at in silos,
That's,
right? So that's a new ad,
what's it-
and so. I think Regina is going to incorporate a bit more here and get this section kind of wrapped up, right, Regina?
Yep.
Okay.
indeed.
And then Elaine, I think you had worked on this before, and I don't think that. I've made any changes to it, I think you felt as if it's ready, right? I'm gonna
Mhm.
your name off of it quickly. We don't need the names on here anymore. And brings us to economic development deck. Have you read any of this before?
No,
Economic development?
no, but I think that, I just focus on one small piece of economic development as it related to East Milton Square, which is arguably a central business district. And how you use that as an example of how a plan, we've been talking about plans all night, we need a plan, but our plan could really sort of bring all the interested parties together and have those conversations as to what would you like to do, what are we trying to do, right? Decide, provide all sorts of opportunities and amenities and generate tax revenues to a town that really needs tax revenues, but at the same point, someone has to sort of take responsibility for this and say, who's in charge of East Milton Square?
All right, so let's look at this. So what I did first was set out that Milton has viewed itself as a residential community, right? So that's. And it had not paid a lot of attention to its commercial
Right.
districts. Do we agree with that?
Yep.
Even though, and their potential to contribute to the tax base. And then I go into that we just passed an override. So this is kind of setting the context for how we rely on the residential tax. So are we good with that?
Yep,
And then I did check with our town assessor. One point, and I also the GIS specialist, Alan Bishop. 1.3% of our land is owned for business. That's consistent with when the plan was done. But we've actually dropped to 3.1% of our tax revenue coming from commercial from 3.8.
right,
So I added that because I thought the general public would be interested in that, because talk about overrides, people say we need more commercial taxes. And then this was just a little background about the 4 commercial districts. And this is also employment, which came from the plan itself. So the recommendations that were in the plan back when was to increase the commercial tax base and provide more amenities, right? So it's still there. I mean, I think the need is still there. It was suggested also that an economic development commission be established, and no one has acted on that. In terms of successes, the overlay districts were adopted in Milton Village and East Milton Square. There have been a lot of traffic, parking, loading zones studied, but limited implementation. The CPA is an economic kind of boost in the sense that you have more resources to do things with. The economic development plan is still being worked on. But that grant was received in 2024. Challenges. So this picks up. And maybe we can say a house of worship here. If we don't want to be specific, but
right.
I think so.
Well, going back to what you said initially, it's that Milton's always viewed itself as a residential community, but it's also strongly resisted any sort of commercial development in the town. I mean,
Right, so that's what this
the
is.
temple, if you go back to when the temple was sold, I mean, that was going to be what people thought they needed in that part of town. They wanted something with some economic vitality and amenities, and that was struck down extremely quickly. I remember that conversation extremely well, and we went from one tax exempt institution to another tax exempt
Right.
institution.
So Elaine and Regina Dick sent me some language to incorporate. So this Dick may not be the word for word exactly what
No,
you said, but
it's
it's
just that was the whole idea.
right. So that there have been attempts to diversify the tax base that were met with resistance. So these are, Dick and I added the Ice House
Sure.
and the Falcone. Right, because that was gonna be mixed use.
You know,
So this is all of these ran into opposition. So are
very
you
strong
strong
opposition
opposition, right?
that eventually curtailed the plans and having the developer pull their plans.
And we ended up instead with another tax exempt. 243. 340Bs.
Well, you talk about a pyrrhic victory, you know, you fight with the developer who wants to put commercial and then have, 50 units, and they say, okay, we won that fight, and then the next thing you have, we have 92 residential units. I mean, that was a good win.
So Elaine and Regina, you are good with this new addition to this economic development section?
Yeah, I think it's
I
good
think-
to have examples.
Then also Dick, this paragraph was another piece that you had sent me.
Yeah, and it really was. I mean, I think that, think about that. This 1973 was the last major economic project in this town. Significant.
Right.
Right? I mean, so, and once again, this is gonna resonate with some old time Milton residents, I think, which is part of the idea at the town meeting, but saying, listen, let's stop the music at some point. Let's sit down. We have some things we have to deal with. Do we want to deal with them? And if we do, then this is a perfect segue into this new master plan implementation committee, or whatever the committee's going to call themselves, to deal with some of these issues as opposed to keep on talking about them.
Okay, so then these were the other things that were already here, that no applications have been filed on the Milton Village overlay. The underlying commercial district zoning has requirements that hinder investment. There's limited land area. There's lack of retail diversity. For gas stations in East Milton Square, I use as an example, here are nail salons. Loading zone enforcement, lacking of that. Lack of enforcement of parking restrictions. And then traffic impacts of new development continues to be a challenge, and the development review and approval process viewed as difficult by the business community and deterrent to new business. So I think those are all sound. Everybody agree?
Well, you heard it at the last planning board meeting, the last one from JD Wild was basically saying, I said, here I am, I'm a major property owner in Milton Village, which we spent an awful lot of time.
Right.
And doing this overlay district, you're saying, wait a minute, they said, I'm not really against, the work of this new proposal, but how is it gonna affect me and what I do for a living,
Right.
right? And,
So then, so Dick, this is where I added what you sent me also.
Yeah.
About the economic development plan for East Milton Square Business District. I was specific to say the business districts,
That's fine. I mean,
the
that's-
whole area,
it's,
and. So that's, I didn't use word for word, but I got the gist of it, I think, in that paragraph. And then, the others were really some of the same recommendations that were in the plan to begin with.
Right.
That still haven't. Happened, really. So. There's a lot of it. I think I added some here too.
yeah, I mean, it's always, I think, all I was trying to do was trying to highlight that you need a plan, and we don't have one. And we can talk about having a plan, but unless the town wants a plan to deal with issues they think it's important, someone's gonna have to take responsibility and have accountability, for putting something together moving forward. I mean,
So Arthur Doyle, I had a conversation with him recently, and he said that when he was on the select board before, he wanted the director of planning and community development to have a responsibility for economic development as well.
right,
And he still has that interest, he's running for that seat now. But it's nice to hear that somebody has that interest. And hopefully the select board will, I don't know what the job description, I mean, they just filled that planning director position, and I know they're interviewing for the assistant director position. And I don't know if they put economic development into either of those job descriptions, but it needs to be housed somewhere.
If it doesn't belong to the planning department, where does it belong? In the line department? Is it DPW?
Well, here, establish a commission, I guess it, who was to be on the commission. Or increase the capacity in the planning department. To guide economic development, that's what they said before, I still think it makes sense now. Okay, so, transportation. So here, Dick, I rolled your comments into different sections that I had already
That's fine,
written.
yeah.
So. Capturing the challenge. Of cut through traffic. And advent of apps such as Waze. But also residents' daily life now with more delivery and ride service use such as Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and Amazon. Also contribute. And the congestion posing quality of life, pollution, and public safety issues throughout town. And then it goes into the traffic mitigation committee. I elaborated on this, Dick, based on what you had sent me. And what I ended up doing too is I thought a high level recommendation was that there be town administrator be responsible for administering and implementing it.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting, I thought it was interesting, having. Not being an early morning person, having participated in like 30 meetings at 7 o'clock in the morning. Is that the only serious disagreement we had on that committee, that was chaired by Jeff Mullen. Was who was going to have the responsibility for implementing the plan. And at that time, there was a number of us who were opting for the model we have here. Just like the MPIC committee implementation would have a traffic implementation. At that time, the town manager, Mike Denny, fought very, very hard and was very adamant that he thought it belonged to the town manager, right? Because he would have responsibility for all those different pieces. We acquiesced to that at the end. And that's either, if it's not gonna be the town manager, tell me who that person is. Right? But that decision will be made by the select board. I think by the select board, with the input from the town manager saying, hey, I don't want this, I'll give it to someone else, I'm gonna designate it to someone else, or we come up with a implementation committee. But it's almost 5 years old now, so I mean, do you need another one of these studies to do another study again?
Well, I think I reread it, I think there's a lot of validity still, and then probably maybe some new data. Could back up, but I don't think it's gonna change the recommendations much.
Shouldn't, but
So
I mean.
maybe, but I included the recommendations here at a high. Level, not like the detail of the report itself, but noted that they're federal, state, and then adjacent community and then town. Kind of oriented. I highlighted here, Dick, and you can see if you agree. Hiring a traffic engineer and amending the makeup in charge of the traffic commission to be proactive rather than reactive. To develop the comprehensive transportation plan. And develop and own the electronic traffic model. And how we view it as an important tool.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then at the beginning of this part was to designate the town administrator to be responsible. And then I mentioned the traffic commission, the state roadway studies. The successes I highlight as the adoption of the townwide default speed limit at 25. And apparently we do have full-time traffic enforcement officer. I do think these things vary with budgets, though. The complete streets policy, the bike pen master plan, the traffic impact mitigation section of the bylaw, requiring the traffic studies. And then ongoing activities, the Chickatawbut project, intersection project, the road diet project, and then challenges, you know, still the congestion, and then let's see here, no ownership of these other reports are plans. The traffic model not being owned by the town as being challenges, and then the recommendations. Include some things from the report here, Dick.
Mhm.
And then the recommendations of the bicycle pedestrian master plan. Responsible party be designated. Beginning with on the bike ped master plan, start with the more modest recommendations. And begin a community engagement process on the larger ones, which would require more road diets.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people can realize, I mean, we're talking about, you know, how we get the state involved. I mean, we have 3 people killed on Randolph Avenue for the State Department of Transportation to come in and deal with an issue that most people in Milton have been talking about for years.
Right.
You know, when I looked up, when I talked to the traffic enforcement officer for the town of Milton, and he directed me to the Mass DOT crash site, looking at Milton with 700 crashes, automobile accidents a year, and comparing that, I think what I had for you to towns like Belmont and Hingham and Needham, where we're at least 30% more accidents in Milton than they have in Needham. And think about Needham, how they're set up in terms of their roads and commercial activity and highways. So I think it's one of these things that, once again, I think all this stuff is going to come down to the people in town think any of these things are important, and if they're important, someone is going to have to take responsibility for dealing with them.
One of the things when rereading that report, it did reference that we have to basically encourage the use of more multimodal transportation, right, and public transportation. And so alternate, like I hear that report noted that the roadway network is limited, unlikely to grow appreciably, and effective local and regional strategies will be tied to increased use of mass transportation and alternative modes of transportation. So I did include that as far as the recommendations.
Sure.
Is to trying to find it here.
That was a Jeff Mullen recommendation based upon his experience with the Department of Transportation. So, and everyone agreed it's a question of how do you get people to use it.
Yeah, one thing I think, I mean, the state obviously has been, I think the MBTA's improved their slow zones and all of that, so people feel like if it's reliable. I mean, honestly, one of the other things in that report that I found very interesting, because I think it shows what people actually are doing, is it says to provide a shuttle from the town hall to the Fairmount line.
Sure.
And people who can get to the Fairmount line use that actually quite a bit. So that is one way, to get more people to use it, but, you know, what I did here really was just highlight that it needs to be done. More
Yeah.
coordination, because, if we think about Milton having the trolley, if you can get more people to the trolley. The trolley has gotten a lot better in getting you to,
Well, here's, as someone who took the trolley more than most people through 4 years of high school and 2 years of graduate school, like every day. The problem is, with the exception of Milton Village, where do you park your car? How do you get there?
so that's something you have to be able to get there.
You have to get there. I mean, when you know, how do I get to Central Avenue? And do I walk? Do I take an Uber? Do I take a bicycle? You know, how do I get to Central Avenue to be able to take the trolley, right?
Well, even if you rode your bike to Central, it's not really a good place to leave your bike.
Maybe your
over.
bike, there you go, Illinois Valley Road or, what's the other one?
Even-
Cape Street. So I think that's one of those issues where Milton Village is the only one that has probably enough parking, right? For people to actually, that's what I used to do, drive my car and leave it there and take the trolley. And
I
then
think that's
without-
why some people take the commuter rail, instead of parking lot and heading.
You know, I used to drive, then I used to drive to North Quincy. But
Yeah.
I think, you know, those are some of the things that, you know, you can spend all this money on making the trolley move faster and more efficient. But if I can't get there, if I need someone to drive me there, right? I mean, what am I getting in terms of, you know, traffic and congestion? Look at, you know, Central Avenue now in the mornings. It's a mess. You know, with the traffic there. So, I mean, all this stuff, I think that if someone has to sit down and really kind of take all of these issues we're talking about tonight and just go one by one and just go through it and come up with some sort of a plan that's comprehensive and a little bit coordinated with the town taking responsibility for doing some, if not all.
Yeah, I think, you know, some things are easier done than others, obviously, but it's still, like, when we get the report of the Climate Action Planning Committee, transportation and emissions from, you know, single-use vehicles is gonna be part of what they address. And so it, you know, these things are all related, right? They're all tied. All right, so I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Interest time here.
One thing, did we think about, and maybe we don't need to get to this level of
Yeah.
detail, but have we thought about incorporating anything around like the accessing the off-ramp from 93 that people, you know, into East Milton, or that people are using to cut through, like the people I talked to that are commuting into Boston and Cambridge, and a lot of them, like, especially when traffic is really awful, they get routed right through Milton. And so, like, how is there a way that we can prevent that? I don't know if that's already been explored, but or if that would even be feasible, but just something to think through, like I know you spoke to regional considerations in here, but
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's such a huge impact, is that cut through traffic, and it's certainly complex.
I guess that's like, you know, continuing to work with state officials on making the regional highway system as efficient as possible. I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah, that is captured in there. This is a good point. That's probably fine.
okay,
Well, Lane, a lot of the stuff is in this traffic mitigation
Yeah, it's a
report. I
good
mean,
report.
there's not much that the chair of the committee and some of the other members missed on this stuff. You know, in particular, the Wood Street extension, where you have traffic crossing each other, you know, during the busiest times of the day, and people are just going there so they can go up Edge Hill Road, up Pleasant Street to access Randolph Avenue. I mean, we're encouraging people to do that. Can we change that? I'm not a traffic engineer, I don't know, but that's something for a traffic engineer to kind of deal with.
Yeah, and
As a suggestion, right?
right. And I think, like I had mentioned earlier, I think it's like we're not using an expert, I don't think, all the time with some of these smaller changes that might have larger impacts you don't think at the time. Like if someone calls and is reporting that there's cut through traffic during these hours, and then pop, we put up a sign that says, you know, you can't access this road during these hours, and was it fully thought through, and like the kind of impact of that change. And sometimes
Yeah.
question whether we really think of the impact of the change and how we've maybe just moved the issue elsewhere. In some instances, I don't know,
Well, that's exactly what we were talking about with that traffic model, Elaine, is that you would actually be able to predict it before you put those signs up, so that you could
Yeah.
see that if you put those signs up, where those vehicles would go. And
right,
so that you could, decide if there was a different way to handle it, rather than just that, putting those signs up. That-
right, and I think to Dick's point, like, and then we've captured in here is like really having a person or group own that, and the responsibility for that, obviously, like, divvying up responsibilities to other committees and town government, officials, but it's like, I think if we don't have ownership over traffic mitigation in general, like, it just doesn't happen.
Well, like,
Not to the degree that we want it to.
yeah, so I did bring out more of the report in the last week into this document from what Dick had sent me. So like the part that we're looking at here in terms of the recommendations directly from the report. And, saying that the town government needs to be more active on the issue. I mean, that's, the report said that 5 years ago. And, what's happened, nothing's happened much with the report. I mean, it's like so many good reports, I think, and so many good committees have done good work, and it's frustrating that they don't move forward. I guess some of it's prioritization or capacity or cost or what have
Yeah,
you.
totally.
Yeah,
Well, I think the idea is, I mean, you want to get people like us involved in town government, but I don't think anybody has that much time in their hands
Right.
to waste it on something that is going to go nowhere. When this goes back when Bill Clark was here, and I'm not taking away from Tim Zawinski at all, but Bill was in conversations. He was directed to have conversations with the head of transportation, the city of Boston and the city of Quincy, to find out if there's some sort of a way that we could work with each other, right? To get people, obviously people were going into Quincy as Quincy was growing rapidly. And is there a way of funneling those people to get on the expressway as opposed to cutting down Adam Street or some of the neighborhoods down your way, Elaine, and then down Granite Avenue, right? I mean, are there ways of doing this? But if you don't have someone in charge of it, who does it? And I understand what people are going to say. I worked in government for a little bit. There's always something else to do, right? I'm doing this. This is more important. But at some point, some things that you haven't dealt with that are important are still going to be important if you don't do them, right? So I think that's the focus, trying to say to people, here are some issues. They're in the master plan. We still think these are important. Who is going to deal with them? Because if not, then take them out of the master plan. Just say, we're just not going to deal with them.
Right.
The town has decided traffic is not important. Or,
So-
housing is not important, or,
Yeah.
whatever, right?
So Dick, I agree with you. I at the same time, I do think that the master plan for almost every community is an evolving and an idealistic document, right? We know there's not enough hours in the day to accomplish everything on a, even a 20-year timeline, right? Or that the goal will lead to the next goal. And then you'll be at that point instead. But I do think there's something to be said for making an ambitious plan that each one of the goals is within reach, even if we know that there's no way we can accomplish all of them. I still think that it makes sense to have that as an aspirational document that we really are striving toward. The one thing I would say is that the difference between important and urgent is really highlighted by what the town takes care of reactively versus proactively, right? And I definitely think that hiring contractors and having, they're not called taskmasters, what are they called? Scrum masters. So folks that are responsible for helping to pull people along and get these things done would be helpful, because then that person is the bona fide and charismatic nag that you know is going to call you when you don't do something. I also think that it's possible to assign the task of, some of these individual small things, an individual task to one of the 270 town meeting members, as their one thing to worry about. And it could be something of their choosing from a list, and maybe based on seniority, what they get to pick. I think that could be another way to go, that would allow someone to say, here's a recommendation, and either a multi-precinct committee of town meeting members is gonna work on that, or each individual takes one small thing and then works with a smaller group of town meeting members to try and push for that thing. I don't know. It's just one possible way of organizing our community around accomplishing these aspirational goals of the master.
Thank you, Regina.
That's fine.
I guess that's something that we could think about in the final section of the overall recommendations. When we get down there, I'm gonna pass over the facilities. And then the changing conditions. Here, I think Regina was going to add some of the recommendations that came out of the diversity and social justice report, similarly to the traffic report, bringing some of that content in.
Yeah, I have notes. So just last week, I think it was last week, Chris Hart presented to the select board, and gave a really, I think, candid and appropriate summary of the things that would be necessary, and the fact that greater action would need to be taken by the select board in order to address any of the recommendations in this report. And so I feel like I took notes on that, and will can distill those into this. If someone else would like to assist with that, I'm seeing a theme of multiple things here that are going to be on my plate for the next couple of days. So if anybody wants to just help distill those notes, it's a great use of AI to be able to accomplish something like that. If anybody has the wherewithal.
All right, Regina, I'll see if I can help you tackle that.
Okay.
Then I added this here because this has to do with this idea that Laurie Stillman and Pat Lattimore, the Partnership for Healthy Milton, went to the select board and spoke about the idea of feeling like a part of community. So it seemed like this idea of continuing to support resident-led efforts and resident participation in town government offers benefits, including increased civic engagement and improved social cohesion, stronger community ownership, and more responsive government. So what do you think, Regina? Is this a good place for this kind of content?
Yeah, I think that does fit in those recommendations under DEIB just as much as it does under the that other topic where we had which one was it?
All right, so does this make sense to you in terms of the location for this?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And then on,
Is it already in there? Or do we need to add it?
no, that's here.
That's
It's
what
in
I thought.
there.
Okay, all right. I was just asking
Yeah,
if you
sorry,
needed
I-
something else there or if it's already good.
Yeah,
So can we cross off that one that says please review
am I still
Or
seeing
is-
that?
to the right? Is that good?
I'm gonna add the recommendations here though, so still need a reminder for that,
Got it. Okay, okay. That
right?
sounds good. That sounds good.
Okay, climate change. I don't think there was anything new added. Oh, I did add the community electric aggregation program. Still have a question into Megan about whether she needs those all caps here and what she was trying to do with that.
Mhm.
And then on the sort of overall conclusion. I think over time, there've been a little bit of confusion about what a master plan really is. And so, it felt like it needed a little bit here. But I think the real recommendation is, it's the effectiveness of the plan is really determined by how well it's integrated into other enforceable bylaws and improvement plans and related plans. And that it requires sustained effort from elected officials and appointed boards, town employees. And without adequate staffing and political commitment, progress can be slow.
You know, a master plan can be what a town wants it to be,
Mhm.
right? It can be. It's a living document, we know that, things are changing, we're adding things to it that weren't part of the original master plan. But to have it really mean something really, you need a deliverable, something has to happen. You know, we can point to the Milton Village overlay as something that we actually accomplished, right? And other things, we've had some victories along the way. But there are a lot of things that have been identified. Remember where this information came from? It wasn't this group that came up with this. It was based upon meetings with individuals and asking them over and over and over again, what's important to you? What would you like to see changed in this town? What would you like to see be continued in this town? So it wasn't our document, it was their document, it was the town's document. And now we're saying, okay, if we're gonna implement it, these are the recommendations we're making. I think that was our charge, making to the planning board and the select board of things that should happen. Now, whether or not they happen or not, that's not for us. Okay, but it is for the select board and the planning board.
Right.
And
So,
that's all we can do. I mean, that's all you can do. You just point it out and say, people thought this was important. Would you like to deal with it? Do you think it's important? Do you agree it's important? I've said this like 5 times now. Is that if you don't think it's important, then say it's not important. We can leave it in here, but let's move on to things that you think is important, and then we could actually accomplish something. Because none of these issues solve themselves.
so do you think anybody think we need anything more here in the conclusion?
No, I mean,
You know, the final piece is that are submitting an article. And that, I think that's our final recommendation, is really that there's more work to monitor. And
Yeah.
there's updates that need to be made. I mean, that's our final recommendation.
Yeah, and I absolutely think that we should underscore that, you know, this thing is always going to be an aspirational document, and that we are operating with limited resources in terms of time, funding, effort, and all of these things, but that, you know, we do want to encourage folks to work together and work toward these aspirational goals even better. I also want to take back my recommendation that that town meeting be considered a source of sort of task mastering on this, because as I forgot to, in the moment. Yes, they've made themselves available to be elected officials, but they are legislators and not part of the execution of what they legislate. So I'm gonna stand firm on backing off of that that suggestions that I made.
All right, Regina, so, do you think it's covered here, what you just said in terms of? I mean, it doesn't say explicitly it's aspirational, or we can call it a dynamic aspirational tool. You want me to do that, add that
Yeah,
here?
I like that. It's not, none of it is out of reach. But as a whole, it's a lot of work,
So. Before we vote on the final report,
Well, I think I think it's a good report with all the work where
okay,
people have done on this thing, but I do think what's critical is what you're gonna say in your presentation, because I would probably say, I would like to think that a lot of people would read this. Okay,
I'm just
I
gonna
don't
pull,
think that's the case, but we are required to submit a report, which we're
Right.
doing. And I think that's all well and good. I would bet that less than 1% of the people that we would like to have read it. Read, the town meeting members and others will actually take the time of reading it.
so I was planning to pull out. High level accomplishments
Sure.
and high level. Where we make our recommendations, what still needs work, and then on these things that we said are new that need to be addressed more deeply, like the into climate change, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't gonna do anything that's not already covered here. I was just gonna pull out some highlights. And if anybody wants to see that, since I haven't done it yet.
No,
Okay.
which we shouldn't touch on that, but I mean, I think that the people should, again, you should remind people, or I would recommend that you would remind people that this isn't our work. We didn't come up
Right.
with these. This is how the process started. And this is for residents in the town who have identified issues that they would like to see addressed, so at least investigated, if not addressed, right?
Right,
And then throw it back at the town meeting members saying, okay, what do you want to do? People are saying these things are important to them. We didn't make this stuff up. Right? How would you like to deal with it? If they don't want to deal with it, they don't have to deal with it.
okay,
Fill out a report.
so knowing that there's a couple of things we're gonna add. Pulling in from the report from the Diversity and Social Justice Committee. Pulling in the information from Parks and Rec. Are we good to vote on this?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so Regina and Elaine, are you good to vote on it?
Motion to approve the draft report or final report? What are we saying?
Yeah, the
Report.
the report. of the committee.
Motion to approve the annual report coming out of the Master Plan Implementation Committee as written, save for grammatical and other minor changes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
And we'll do roll call. Regina,
Yes.
Elaine,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Can I just say that this report, it feels like it's been so long in coming, so I'm happy that we
Do
got
a
it
little
done.
dance, everybody. Do a
I
little
know,
dance.
right? Now, I just, we're gonna take quick notes here and then go back to our agenda. Let me stop the share. All right, so then the article itself, we all voted on the language, it was submitted to the warrant committee. The couple members of the warrant committee reached out to me, I met with them, we discussed it. If you saw the warrant, you saw the recommendation is to approve it. last week at the planning board members expressed concern and disappointment that they weren't notified about the content of that article sooner. And that we hadn't delivered our report sooner. And there was some concern that the article itself was setting up a committee that would do planning work. And I explained that it wasn't our intent, for this committee to do planning work, but to continue to monitor and to make recommendations. There was some discussion from some members about whether volunteer committees like this one would be appropriate, which considering the warrant committee, the conservation commission, the historical commission, climate action planning, and so many traffic mitigation committees, there's so many volunteer committees rather than elected committees. I really was surprised to hear that one, but I wanted to share those with you in case anybody wanted to have any kind of different recommendation. I think our recommendation, we discussed quite a bit about what we felt, and I said to them, our charge is to deliver our recommendation, and that's our recommendation is to set up the successor.
Right. And I think we addressed some of the plans. I think one thing is gonna be interesting, which I think is important in terms of this report and your presentation, is to give people who will be appointed. The way I understand it, will be a 9-member committee made up of three recommended participants from the planning board, the select board, and the town moderator, to get people to agree to participate in something like this. It has to be very clear as to what this committee is going to be doing and what's expected of them in terms of being part of it. Otherwise, you'll have a committee that's just gonna flow through, and it won't be I don't think will be as effective as it could be if people don't understand exactly what we're trying to accomplish here.
Dick, I agree with you. I do think there should be some room for that committee to decide how to do their things. But if I were new to the committee, I would want to know that if I'm checking on Parks and Rec stuff, here are the individuals that you should check with. Not because we can't trust the committee to know that, but frankly, if they're new to it, I think that's historical knowledge that has rolled over with this committee, by having some folks that have been on it before, and folks who are more knowledgeable about the inner workings of the town government. And so I'd love to see this new committee maybe set up a process for like reviewing and implementing the master plan.
I was thinking, I was maybe hopeful that one person or two might be interested at least in starting on that committee as a transition, to kind of provide, but if not, like even as former chair, I would meet with whomever becomes the chair and just, pass on some information and knowledge and be available to answer questions, so.
Well, I think it's like anything. There's a time where it's a good time to switch gears and get some different views involved. And that's why I think it's important that whoever's going to recommend these people to the select board, the planning board, and the town moderator understand, what you want this committee to do, right? And is it to try to identify things that are aspirational, but also things we really want to get done? Because I think there's a mounting urgency in some areas for the town to do more than they're currently doing.
The one thing I would say is like, my term on the planning board ends in the next election in the spring, but if this committee gets established and gets set up, I will be able to sell or advise the planning board members that this is what the committee thoughts were. The same for Megan to the select board.
Right.
And hopefully, if the moderator wants to have some feedback, you know, I can talk with her about it. So I do think there's that opportunity,
Right.
given it the way the structure's set up.
Yeah, I think that, you know, this is a somewhat of an implementation committee as opposed to starting from scratch and doing a new master plan.
One of the things that I did mention to the planning board members who had concerns was that there's so much in this master plan is not under the purview of the planning board.
Right.
And it's, you know, the responsibility, like so much we talked about tonight, in terms of traffic, for example. Or Parks and Rec and open space and conservation, for example, do not follow or fall under them. And so it really is, you know, important that these other entities continue to have a role in it. It's not just the planning.
You know, as I said, I think there is some confusion when people have asked me, what do we do? I mean, I have to go through the same pretty much song and dance all the time as to what we do and what we don't do.
Right.
Right? We're not the planning board, right? We're not the planning department. You know, we're taking your thoughts, putting them they're in a document and trying to get as many of these implemented as we can, given our charge. And making those recommendations, sound recommendations after considerable thought and vetting and discussion to the planning board and the select board. And that's what I think that's what we've done.
Right.
Right, and then there are some things that they may not like to hear some of the comments in the document. But that sort of goes with the territory, right? I mean, it's, you know.
Right.
You know, I think we all have someone who disagrees with us occasionally in our personal and professional lives, right? So. Get
In
over
some
it, get over
cases,
it.
disagrees with us a lot.
Right.
Alright. So here we come, Dick, so how many years of working together?
I'm all done, this is it for me. This has been 12 years, it's been interesting, it's been fun. It's always been civil, and I think we've accomplished a lot. I think there are the things I wish we would have been able to get to. We just didn't have the time or the resources to do it, and I think Bill is a better place for the time of everyone, going back to the beginning.
Right.
Of all the people that have been involved, you know, from day one, and I think this is it's a good process, and I think it should be used by the town. You know, when we do a plan, if you don't have an implementation committee, don't have a plan.
Well, and one other thing I mentioned at the planning board meeting was that, you know, MAPC has used our committee as an example for other towns. I think particularly the funding piece, the sort of tracking and the monthly meetings and the way we've conducted this,
Yeah.
the work for this
Yeah.
committee, so I think, yeah, we should be happy with what we've done, for sure. So non-town meeting members are welcome to come to town meeting, you know, it's article 3, I think it is, so I can send out the presentation when I have it ready, so if you'd like to see it.
I'd be happy to sit in the stands.
Yeah, and if
Right.
you're there, I'd be happy to acknowledge whoever is there, yeah, you know, obviously.
I don't need to go right, man, so I'm fine. I'll wear a disguise, it's right around Halloween, so we'll, you know, we'll do something along those lines, but you know, I think it's gonna be, you know, this is your show right now. I mean, in terms of, you know, all you have all our input, you're gonna take before, and I think it's just to be clear, my only recommendation, just to be clear, as this is what we do, this is what we don't do, and this is why
Yeah.
we all came together. And I think.
Well, and I think what you said too, why it's important to do it.
Now, if you don't even implement it, listen, I started with a traffic mitigation plan. If you don't have an implementation plan, quite frankly, it's a waste of time.
Right.
Well, we talk a lot about reports sitting on shelves and not being used, and I feel like the master plan that's guided this committee has really been a living document, and it's the exact opposite of as many times as we've referenced that it's been actively used and referenced. We should be proud of that.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think it's the only committee in town that I can identify. I mean, there were some recent committees that we've been doing this for a while and gave people an opportunity with a point where we couldn't get 5 people that wanted to be on the implementation committee at the outset.
Right,
Right? I mean, it was like scrambling, grabbing people saying, hey, we wanna go on this thing. People said, oh, this is a waste of time. To the point where now there is some interest in being part of it. And I think, the changeover, the new ideas from Elaine and Regina have been wonderful in terms of, the different ways they look at issues than our original committee did.
Right.
Right? And it just shows us this evolvement of this living document, with aspirational issues and others that I think were important. And the people would say, hey, you might not agree, but at least we talked about
Mhm.
Dick, I love you too.
it. Okay, Regina, how was that? Huh? How was that? All right, I got it.
It's been very
Um,
civil.
all right, well, thank you all, it's been a pleasure working with you all. And,
Thank you, Cheryl, for a great job. You've been a great chair and
Yeah.
it's I think it's worked out better than I expected. And I think when people, if they take the time to read all the hard work that you people put in to the document, they'll be pleasantly surprised and should be very vocal in their gratitude for the hard work that you've done. So there you go.
all right, well, now that we've done all of our thank yous and our.
Yeah, I know. All good things have to come to an end, but
I will take a motion to adjourn then.
I will make that motion, my last
Second.
motion, all right? What do you think, Regina, you gonna second that? Who seconded
Second.
that? Okay, all right,
All right, so I gotta do my last recording here. And roll call, Regina,
Yes.
Elaine.
Sorry, before I say yes, I just want to say I'm really glad that we had one more traffic discussion. Yes.
And parking, and
stop it,
parking.
Elaine, oh, yes,
Stop, yes, all right, thank you, good night.
Good night.
right.